So we're just making some last minute notes here. Okay, so we will call the council meeting to order. Any changes to agenda? If not, motion to accept as presented. Thanks, Darren. Call the question, those in favor? That's carried. So we'll start with a delegation tonight. So we got Megan Payne from Lesser Slave Lake Watershed Council. And she's going to be sharing her screen. She's got a presentation to go through us. Megan, we did get your package of the attachments that you sent already there as well. But at this point, as long as technology works, the floor is yours.
Okay, so you guys seeing my slideshow?
Nope.
Not yet? Okay.
Yeah, I can see it right now.
Yeah,
All right.
I got it on mine.
You might
All
just,
right.
you just might have to change your screen view for any
Oh, got her now.
Yeah.
There we go. Oops. All right, back one. All right, so thanks for having me. For you guys who don't know me yet, I'm Megan Payne. I've been the executive director for the LSWC since 2008. And I haven't seen you guys in a while, so I did want to check in and give you an update. And I know you have a lot on your agenda and probably even more to deal with these new COVID restrictions. So I'll keep it short and sweet, and you guys can always reach out to me anytime. I have lots of time on my hands these days to have phone calls. So just a quick recap of who we are and what we do. The map of Alberta, there's 11 watershed planning and advisory councils, so WPACs like us, around the province, and our roles are to be a convener and collaborator, so bringing people together to talk about watershed, water related issues, and how we can address some of these challenges. We do monitoring and reporting. We work on policy and planning, and we do lots of education and outreach. So I mentioned our offices here in High Prairie. We have 2 full-time staff, board of directors right here, our 2020 and 21 board of directors. So we had an in-person AGM in October. So this is as of October. We were delayed because of COVID. We generally meet in June. So I just wanted to quickly recap our last year. This is all stuff that's in the annual report. So our total revenue around 200, and generally we're between 250 and 300. This one looks a little leaner because we were prepaid some money before the end of the fiscal year. So that's kind of how we ended up with only, well, what is it here? This 130,000, we actually get 230,000 a year from the government of Alberta, but they prepaid us 100 grand before the provincial election, which kept us going, and that's what year this captures. Here's our supporters over, I guess we're talking last fiscal year, so 2019-20. So municipal partners, industry partners, still the biggest supporter is government of Alberta through a couple streams. So we get an operating grant, which I said is 230,000 a year for these 4 years while this government is in office. And then we have also been the recipient of the watershed restoration or resiliency program grants, and that was 71,000 that show on this financial statement. And then, of course, we track our people time because our board is volunteers and our partners put in time that they don't get paid for. So it's important to us to show the in-kind value. So I have a fancy spreadsheet for everything. And, a total investment of 121,000 and some in in-kind time of all the people that we engage and work with is significant. So, and that was more than the year before that. So I wanted to update you on our Tributary water quality monitoring program. The reason we started it is because there's really no information that's current or consecutive for any of the streams coming into our lake. And it's pretty important when you're talking about managing an important lake to know what's coming in. So this has been going on since 2017 was our first field year. We were able to kick it off with some money from industry, and then we've been the recipient of a Vanderwell contractors, it's called FRIP, Forest Resource Improvement Program grant. And that's a commitment of 100 grand over 5 years. So that was really awesome. So that'll take us to the end of our 5 years of field work. And then we're going to have to obviously keep looking for money. So we collect samples between April and October. We measure a bunch of things in the field with our own equipment. So temperature, oxygen, conductivity, and pH. And then we use ALS laboratory in Edmonton for our samples, which include fecal coliform bacteria, nutrients, and suspended solids. And we chose those because analytical is really expensive, and those are good indicators of some of the more concerning water quality issues. So the perception that we have fecal in our water, nutrient loading from erosion and agricultural sources, and suspended solids gives an indication of how much dirt is in the water, and that lets kind of an indicator of how much erosion is going on. And then we have established a partnership with Swan River First Nation, and they contribute the money needed to collect metals and dissolved metals on our Swan River site. So just building our data set there. Oops. So here's our map. And I realized that we don't have a site on the Lesser Slave River because when this program was started, the government of Alberta was monitoring the Lesser Slave River. I put a star here, a yellow star with a red circle. So there was a station collecting monthly data there, and unfortunately that was just canceled, terminated for lack of resources in 2019. So going forward at the end of this 5 years, if there's a need to monitor there, we will hopefully be able to expand and add that site back to our program, and then information will be collected. So
Megan, quick question.
Yep.
Why is there none in the lake themselves?
Well, because it started as a tributary monitoring program, but we are going to do lake programs starting next year. So this was like the baseline program to get there is more information currently available for the lake than any of the streams. So that was kind of first priority. And then now we're
already doing it, or what?
We're going to start, nobody's doing it. The government of Alberta does not sample any water bodies anywhere in this watershed that I'm aware of.
So, sorry, maybe I messed this up when I just heard from you. Did you say though that there's more information on the lake and that's why you focused on tributaries?
Yeah, historically, like the monitoring that the government has done has been on the lake. The tributaries were only sampled once in the 90s, and that's really it for data. So I'll carry on. We have plans for the lake too. I wanted to share that our data set is publicly available. Folks can go to, it's called Mackenzie Data Stream, and it's literally a map. It looks like this top slide here, and you can see our lake. And the map I showed you, the points are on there. You can click on the site and bring up the water quality data set and look at graphs and stuff. So we're partnered with them to make our data sets publicly available. And the reports are also available on there, as well as our website. But Mackenzie Data Stream does have some cool, quick analytical tools that you can look at and compare sites and stuff. So I think it's cool, but I'm kind of a nerd. So I mentioned that we do want to start monitoring Lesser Slave Lake. There's data gaps for our lake as well, and no current efforts being made to get any monitoring going by the province. So that's a gap that we want to fill. And there's obviously a host of issues and reasons why we want to monitor our lake. It's hugely important to recreation, to our communities, for water supply, for aesthetic value, and of course the environment. Awesome fishery, best one in the province, in my opinion. So we're going to implement a water quality monitoring program. It's pretty basic because it needs to be affordable and something we can carry on from year to year. And people in the watershed, you guys, different stakeholders, the public, we did a survey this summer, and yeah, water quality monitoring comes up as a really important thing for people. And I agree. So we've developed a project plan that the board supports, and obviously I have to come up with money. So I've been seeking support from some of our industry partners, municipal partners, et cetera, to get the program going and hopefully, secure enough money to make it 5 years in a row. And then at the end of 5 years, do a comprehensive report and what does this look like and what should we do going from there. So the program that we're going to start will collect samples throughout the summer, so June to October, and then under ice when it's safe to do so, so January, February, and March. And we're going to look at, obviously, dissolved oxygen. That's easy to measure and really important for fish health and knowing what's going on under our ice all winter. I've been talking to a few biologists that are working on fish things, and there's really no under ice information available for our lake. And that's easy enough to do. We have the equipment. We'll also be doing a Secchi disc measurement. I guess in the picture on the lower right, you can see there's a guy holding a disc looking thing that's black and white. And basically it's how far down can you see through the water column. It's a measure of turbidity, so that changes throughout the year too. And then we're going to be having samples analyzed at the lab, nutrients, fecal coliforms, total and dissolved solids, chlorophyll, and forgot to add on this slide here, zebra and quagga mussel larvae at certain times. That's something that we're going to work with Alberta Environment and Parks to determine exactly how that one works. I'm hoping that they'll pay for it. But when the zebra mussels are in their larval form, they're basically like clear little worms, and you can't really see them, but there's an eDNA test you can do. So if there's any of their trace DNA in the water column, the lab can break it down and detect these DNA markers. So that's something I would like to add, because there's, the invasive species like zebra and quagga mussels are really detrimental if they get established here. And right now, there's not really any monitoring being done aside from the highways coming into Alberta during the summer. So it's kind of, once we detect them, they're already in there, but at least we'll know. And in terms of sites, our lake gets treated kind of as two basins because of its shape, and it pinches in the middle. So we're going to have sites on the west basin, launching a boat at Jussard or going out onto the ice from Jussard, and then on our east basin side out from Canyon Creek. And the sites will be, they'll be the same sites that have been sampled in the past by the government, so that the data set speaks to what's there already and follows kind of a protocol that's already been established. So here's my budget. So looking at about a $20,000 a year program for what I outlined, and $7,100 of that would be staff time from us, which we have covered through our operating grant, and then the cash costs for travel, equipment, calibration stuff, travel, all that, and reporting is about 13 grand. So I've scrummaged up enough money to do year one. So year one's happening. So going forward, I'm looking for support for years 2 onwards to keep this going. Quickly wanted to mention, I guess I should ask you guys, do you have any questions about lake monitoring? It's still kind of to be determined, but that's our game plan. It looks like we'll be good to go starting in May. There is the opportunity to add more samples, like additional parameters, if there was, certain contaminants or metals or different strains of E. coli that, let's say, you guys had an interest in for, say, like recreational purposes for swimming. That's something that we could consider, since we will be collecting the samples anyways. It would just be an additional cost. But we have been working really well with Swan River. We go out in the field and collect the metal samples and stuff, send them our data set, and they reimburse us for the cost of the analytical. So I'm totally open to doing that with other stakeholders that have monitoring interests as well. So just something to think about.
Megan, I got a question. How much would it cost to add something on the Lesser Slave River? Doing it, and we don't have, we literally, there's only one tribute, we're doing a tributary study here, but the only tributary that exits out, we're not doing.
Yes, and I do want to add that. So the biggest, it would be the way we do our samples, we do 3 rivers on one day, then we do the drift pile and the Swan the next day, because the kind of limiting factor for me is I have to get my samples to Purolator by 4 p.m. to be in Edmonton the next day. So adding on the Lesser Slave River would probably be another day, but it is doable. So just extra travel costs. And then the analytical, the parameters would be basically the same as our other sites. So the numbers listed here are about the same. So I can like tomorrow, I can quickly put together an estimate for you and send it your way.
I'd be curious to know there or whatever else. I'm just worried that we're missing.
Yeah, and so we have data there up till 2019, and I do think that we could add it into the program as well. So,
and so how technical is the water sampling? Like, we had volunteers on this side to save your time and money. Can it be done or what?
Yeah, it could be like someone from the town of Slave Lake Public Works, like the water guys are probably very familiar with how to handle samples already. If they had the time, I could provide a dissolved oxygen probe. And then, yeah, they'd just be responsible for sample collection, the chain of custody forms, and getting it shipped and recording measurements. So that would be a great potential way to get it done.
Yeah, so if you can kind of paint us that picture tomorrow there and see what that looks like, I'd love
Yeah,
to.
I'll do that. I'll figure it out. Like paying the watershed council to do it or getting a qualified trained up volunteer to do it, that would save tons of money, because it's about 100 and some bucks every time I drive to Slave Lake to pay travel and whatnot. So it's about $80 to ship a cooler. Purolator has been reliable. It's all dependent on hold times. If you want to look at E. coli's and bacterias, you have to have those samples to the lab within 30 hours or they're no good anymore. So
sounds good.
Lots of little protocol things, but it can be done.
Another question, Megan, was, so if you've been doing this since 2017, you're into your 4th year of data here coming up. I guess what are you seeing from the
generally, our water quality follows the weather pattern. So spring runoff is generally pretty clean snow melt. But then when we get into May, June, and there's heavier rains washing across the landscape, that's when we see, that chocolate milk looking brown water it's really turbid, it's full of dirt. Like by the time you collect a sample and hang on to it for a few minutes, there's already silt settled out into the bottom of it. So it is very related to flow. So higher flows mean higher nutrient loads and higher loads of sediment, and that's when all this big erosion's occurring. Generally, our dissolved oxygen is always, it's never under any thresholds. Dissolved oxygen, that one mainly fluctuates with temperature. So in June and July, July, August, when it's really hot and streams are a bit lower because there's less rain, that's when we'll see less oxygen. And then that's kind of the critical thing for fish. pH and conductivity, it's kind of interesting because I input all this data in different streams, kind of you see different trends from April to October, but we're not seeing anything alarming. There was throughout 2017 and 18 really high fecal coliform counts on the West Prairie River. So that's the one that runs south of High Prairie and then through High Prairie. And that is the source water for the town of High Prairie. So I did bring that to the attention of Big Lakes and town of High Prairie, and Big Lakes County actually contributed some additional money to do, it's called fecal source tracking. So to determine what mammal the fecal came out of, who's pooping in the river. And it came back that it is 85% ruminant in that river. And ruminant includes cows, deer, elk, and moose, like with the ruminant type of stomach. So I've been focusing a lot of my project efforts, like restoration work, on that river system because it had really high fecal coliforms that are bad. That's, over 10 can make humans sick, and we were seeing like 800s and stuff. And so I've been working with Big Lakes County Ag Department to kind of target landowner projects on that river to reduce cows pooping in the river. And I'm going to talk about that as my next project update here. But generally, water quality is pretty decent. The South Heart and the Swan carry the most sediment loads. So when we're talking erosion and deposition into the lake, Those two systems bring in the most sediment. The drift pile is the most unimpacted watershed. So, it has the least, I'd say least developed, least going on in it in terms of development, size or cut lines, forestry. There's a lot of forestry going on, but there's no agriculture in the drift pile. So that one we kind of use as a reference, like the most undisturbed. And then, the West Prairie, East Prairie, South Heart system is the most impacted due to highest agricultural land use and just what comes with all that. So in terms of working with landowners to do better, like to implement best management practices that are going to lead to healthier riparian areas, which means less erosion, less poo runoff going in the river, that sort of thing. We've been able to access provincial funding through the Watershed Resiliency Restoration Grant. So I've kind of named these projects Watershed Resiliency Projects because watershed resiliency basically means anything that makes our watershed healthier and more resilient to flooding and drought, because that's the focus of the program. But things that are good for flood and drought management are also good for fish and watershed health in general. So we have been working mainly in big lakes because, like I said, the water quality issues related to ag are mainly in big lakes at this time, as far as we know. So what we do is we partnered with the Ag Service Board because they have a really good relationship with the farmers, and same with Peace Country Beef and Forage. So we did some professional development. So myself and my other staff member, we have become environmental farm plan technicians, and we've familiarized ourselves with the Canadian Ag Partnership Program because they give money to landowners to do these types of improvements. So things like fencing, riparian health assessments, getting these off-stream solar watering systems or wells or pipelines or other type systems in place so that you're not using surface water for your animals. We've had, I think since 2016, I'm on 7 or 8 projects, and probably total value of the money contributed by everybody and people time were over $500,000 in value. So there is another opportunity to apply for grant money in January, and I've been talking with Russ at MD of Lesser Slave River. He's their ag guy, and we are going to be offering the same opportunity to people in the MD of Lesser Slave River. I realize that the majority of the ag area in that MD is kind of outside of our watershed boundary, but there's a gap. Nobody's really doing extension and this type of project support with landowners there. So I do want to expand and spend more time on your side of the lake. Now that we've kind of got a system in place and we've had a few successes under our belt, I want to make it bigger and do more. So, and that I'm going to work close. I have a presentation with the Ag Service Board for the MD Lesser Slave River this Thursday. So that's exciting, and more project work, more on the ground stuff, the better. And if there's still opportunities to do work, I'm game to get out there and do it if we can. Education and outreach is what has been hit the hardest by COVID, obviously. You've probably seen on our social media through my communications that we do lots of events, but not so much lately. So, we've been spending a lot of time adapting our cool in-person field trips and experiences to online learning, which is not as exciting, but we still want to make our resources available. So, rather than doing a workshop, we were having a Swan River focused stakeholder workshop this fall. We obviously couldn't do it, so we turned it into a three-part online series, and it was done on 3 Thursdays in October. And we had really great participation because staff don't have to get the approval. I need to go to Slave Lake for 2 nights and the travel expenses and hotels, so it does work that way. It's just, I'm sure, as you guys know, the in-person conversations and networking, it's just kind of lost. But my education outreach coordinator is in her 20s, and she's very innovative and working on COVID-friendly stuff. So that's going to be kind of our focus here throughout the winter. And we're going to work with Corey and the other folks at the Boreal Center and the Forest Ed Society to bring the marsh and the swamp to the kids somehow, whether we have GoPros on our heads or whatever next spring. Another thing I wanted to mention that our board's doing is we've established a memorial bursary in memory of Brian Rosche and Brian Elliott. You guys, I'm sure, are very familiar with Brian Rosche. We lost him this summer. And then Brian Elliott was a past chairman and a longtime member of this organization since it was just meeting as a committee in the early 2000s. So we're going to be giving a memorial bursary to a student in our watershed that's pursuing sciences. We have established a committee and they're going to meet on Zoom this winter and get that all ironed out so that we can give out our first bursary to a student this fall, so for the September 2021 school year. And when we have all that ironed out in an application form and such, we'll make sure we share it with you guys so you could get it out to folks in Slave Lake, and we'll obviously be sharing with the college and the school divisions and whatnot. So I thought that would be a nice way to memorialize these guys. And the donate button on our website is now set up so that the money contributed through online donation supports this fund. So people know when they give to us, that's where their money's going. And we do have enough money to do a $1,000 first bursary for somebody next year. So that's something positive. We have something positive that came out of something sad. Other things we have in progress, I'll just kind of quickly run through them. We're working on an elaborate spreadsheet that has a ton of resources in it for municipal staff, communication staff, anybody really to use. It'll just basically be, for a quick reference guide for you guys, if you wanted to say, to the communications folks, okay, once a month, throw in environmental messaging on our social media or in our news things. Just an easy thing that they can go and grab resources from. I mentioned the Swan River Watershed Forum. There's actually a lot of really awesome work going on in the Swan Watershed. Swan River First Nation has been really successful in getting some federal grant money from the Government of Canada through different programs. There's the Indigenous Stewardship Program. There's the Indigenous Species at Risk Stewardship Program. And they're working with a really great team of professionals like biologists and limnologists and fish folks. And so they are working really well with oil and gas companies to address out of compliance culverts, which basically an out of compliance culvert means it's one that fish cannot swim up and down past. So lots of habitat fragmentation, and grayling is a species at risk in Alberta. So our forum kind of focused on bringing together all the different players, so forestry, oil and gas operators, the different folks within Government of Alberta, so ag and forestry and environment and parks and the Alberta Energy Regulator, the stakeholders, around our board, and kind of helping coordinate that effort, because there's lots of bits and pieces being done and other folks that want to come in and help us, like Trout Unlimited Canada wants to come up here and help do some work. So I see the Watershed Council not as taking the lead, because Swan River First Nations really been taking the lead, but helping support work and bringing people together and helping with project planning and grant applications and supporting where needed to get more on the ground work being done. So I'm hoping that throughout this winter, we can get some good stuff planned, and we'll have a few on the ground restoration partnership projects out there next year. Because it is rolling into ice fishing season, we're gonna have a social media campaign about ice safety and good practices for ice fishing and, just general stewardship of the lake. And I mentioned that the West Prairie River had high fecal coliform counts and nutrient loads and such. So we have obtained some money from the Environmental Damages Fund, which is a federal fund that companies have to pay into if they are fined for an oil spill or some sort of infraction. And it stays within the watershed that the infraction was made in. So we were able to access that money to do this intactness and risk assessment. And the reason we chose that river system is because of the higher risk level, and it is the source water for High Prairie and part of Big Lakes County. But if it goes well, there's no reason that we couldn't look at doing this sort of an assessment on the Lesser Slave River. as well, because I know that there's never been a riparian assessment done there. So that's kind of on my future work plan and when we find money. Another thing on my wish list, I would love to find a lakefront property owner that has a small kind of project, but to demonstrate what a natural type lakefront that is still user friendly looks like. So I'm not sure who or where. I've kind of reached out to some of the campgrounds. This would be something that you guys could help me with if you know of somebody. It would be all funded by grant money that the Watershed Council has, and it would be a great way to just showcase some of the better management practices you can do, keeping natural vegetation, having a minimal impact, reducing lawn fertilizers, even looking at doing a rain garden or something to deal with the runoff. Or there's lots of options. I'm looking for a keen person that wants to work with us.
Yeah. Megan, if you had like a one pager or something that kind of described that in a little more detail, or had a little bit of a visual there that we could do, I'm sure we could
Awesome.
We could put out that on our town communications and do a call out.
Because I know you guys have that erosion going on at the airport, but unfortunately that's a bit beyond the scope of what we can do. That's going to have to be engineered, approved by multiple levels, Alberta Environment and Parks and DFO, I'm guessing. So that's a little bit above and beyond. I'm talking like, willow planting, weed removal, weed management, more on the stewardship side of things that people can do themselves without approvals. So I think that would be something cool to engage community members in. And the bigger erosion issues at the airport, I've been kind of looking for you guys to see if I can find any funding streams that would fit, but the Watershed Restoration and Resiliency Program has now specified that they are not going to pay for engineering studies or armoring. So that kind of cuts that one out. That was kind of the one I had hoped for. But I have put out a request to other WPACs, other colleagues, to ask them if they have worked with municipalities on a project like that. So I do have it on my radar to try and help you guys out any way I can think of with that. Our board did a strategic planning session in person, and we're going to have a new strategic plan for our next year. Our year starts April 1st. We follow the provincial year end. And then just ongoing fly by the seat of your pants and do the best you can to keep things going during COVID and the restrictions that we're all dealing with, and trying to stay sane and positive and think of the things that we are able to still do. So now that I told you guys all the stuff that we have ongoing, we do have things going on. It's just a bummer that we can't do normal stuff. So like I said, I'm always around. I will put together a one-pager for you on the lake monitoring and what it would take to add lesser slave river back into our program. And I'll put together kind of my pitch for a lakefront stewardship project and send those your way. And then if there's anything else, I'm happy to talk to anyone one-on-one in more detail about anything. And we're on social media, so follow us, share our stuff. And yeah.
Okay, thanks, Megan. I appreciate it very much. And I know a lot of your work and monitoring there and your projects are focused on the West Basin, but it all flows this way. So all the work that you're doing down there definitely helps us over here as well. So
yeah, I do feel the perception that we do focus more on that side. And it's related to agriculture. Agriculture has an immense water quality impact, but I do want to get more things going in the MDLS or Slave River to support their agricultural folks and more lake focused things, and yeah, just have more of a presence around the watershed. So you guys are my go-to people when I need to reach out to Slave Lake for ideas and stuff. So I appreciate when you give me input.
Well, I don't know how many ideas we would have for you, but
oh, come on.
Yeah, no, like the one thing, if there's a opportunity, I think, to grab the tributary that's in our area, and it has an egress, I think we should try and see what we can do to jump on that one.
I think that if you guys can cover the people part of it, I can cover the analytical costs, and we can make it happen starting next year. I think that one's an easy win.
If you put some stuff together and have a conversation with David, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Any questions from council, comments? Anything else you want to add? Councillor McGregor.
Hi, Joy.
Hi, Megan. One thing I just wanted to share was your passion when I was on the watershed, and it's sure nice to see, even though through these trying times, you still have that same passion and you guys are still working hard and doing lots of projects. So I just wanted to tell you that and say thank you for all that you still continue to do for the watershed.
Yeah, this year has been weird, but I mean, just got to stay enthusiastic and do what you can and try not to dwell on the negative. And we still can do lots of stuff. And we're kind of lucky in that we're not part of, if we were provincial government employees, we wouldn't even be allowed to be at work. So look at the small wins, and I appreciate that. People probably think I'm just crazy for the watershed, but maybe I am. I like it. I put my heart into it, and I'll keep doing that. So I'm gonna, if I don't have any other questions, I'll just sign off here, and I wish you a good meeting and good luck with all this COVID stuff. I don't envy your position.
Good luck to us all. Hey,
good luck to us all in these trying times, and I hope you all have a good Christmas season and all that. And
you too, Megan. I appreciate you jumping on today and sharing this information. We look forward to hearing back from you. And to echo Councillor McGregor comments, I had a Mayor Thorpe reach out to us the other day and asking some questions about environment and watershed and that sort of stuff. And she's taken up a position as our representative for kind of like Western towns and stuff across Alberta. And I said, listen, like I am the wrong guy to ask, but there is a girl who lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes this stuff, and she's the one to talk to. So I saw that you guys are connecting already, and
no, I totally appreciate that referral. And I was going to work with the other Northern Watershed Councils, so the Athabasca and the Peace, to put together an information package for her. So
that's great. We're lucky to have you, Megan. Appreciate it.
Okay, you guys, talk to you soon. I'm just gonna figure out how to get out of here now. See ya. Okay.
While you do that, we'll jump in with the rest of our meeting. Okay, back to agendas here. Oh, so sorry. Next one, CAO update, Mr. Kim. Make sure you turn on your mic. There you go.
Good evening, Your Worship and the members of council. My CAO update starts with the health and safety. So there are 2 employees that are currently in isolation awaiting for test results. And 3 minor incidents were reported in the week of November 29th involving slip and falls and a finger injury. The town's front desk serves around 10 people in person per each day when we are open to the public. And our planning and development is working on several new applications and reports these days. And our fire department reports the total of 9 calls, including 1 structural fire, and working on a variety of vehicle maintenance and training plans. Our project management staff has been working on a few reviews that include an innovative road pavement technique, sanitary connection to Dog Island Brewery, CJ Shorter school bus access, raw water line agreement, and Sawridge Creek flood study. From the economic development front, we are working with various stakeholders, including the college, province, and neighboring municipalities. These discussions include the feasibility of geothermal development in our region, electric vehicles charging station opportunities in the town, Class 1 driver training program, regional tourism strategies, and broadband internet opportunities. We also have commenced the work developing a comprehensive business survey and a communications plan, including 2 discovery meetings led by our consulting firm, Insight. Our community service department is reviewing areas for FCSS support using remaining 2020 budget. The department is also assisting with FCSS community needs assessment with the online survey already out to the public. The scope of this assessment includes evaluating all FCSS services over the past 5 years. Our peace officers responded to 29 calls in the past 5 years, in the past 5 days. And our facilities workers have returned to our earlier level of building maintenance during the spring lockdown. We have also increased communications with our tenants at all facilities related to the changes in operation. And this concludes my presentation, Your Worship and the members of council. And I'll take any questions if there is.
Questions from council? Councilor McGregor.
Question, so your FCSS community needs assessment survey, where did you guys come up with the questions, or who come up with the questions for that?
That is developed in conjunction with the consultant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Busk.
Just hoping that with these new regulations and stuff that come out, that the town will be able to put out a concise, I guess, set of rules for our parks, things like this, so that we don't have an issue where people are being asked to leave the park. If just give people the precise or concise information of what is required, and let's hopefully give them an outlet for their pent up frustrations. Thanks.
Absolutely. Through your worship to the councilor, we are developing that actions starting tomorrow, and then it'll be released through the media.
Okay, Councilor McGregor.
I just wanted to add, I know we don't have Leah on here, but we had a meeting on Friday with Insight under economic development, and to have 25 people or 24 people on a meeting for 3 hours that seemed to fly by. I think it was one of the best meetings I've attended for a really long time. I think the participation was fantastic. So thank you to all of council, and then thank you to everyone on the executive and the others that participated in it. It was really good, and I think we got a lot of information sharing, and I really liked how the meeting was run. I know that we don't like to do things through Zoom, but when you have the right person facilitating the meeting and you have people really engaged, I think it can work wonderful. So please pass that on to Leah and to the rest of the team for that for me, because I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I think we're moving in the right direction in economic development faster than I thought we were going to. So thank you.
Appreciate the feedback. I will pass on to the staff and the consultants.
Okay. That has me questioning my own ability to facilitate this Zoom meeting, but I'll keep going. Other questions? David, you mentioned something about innovative road maintenance. What is that?
That is what is being proposed by a company, and we'll have to dig up more details, but there's absolutely innovative technology that is being used to pave our asphalt, and that saves a lot of money. And we are in the initial stage to figure it out yet.
It's pretty vague, but I'll wait on the edge of my seat. Okay, any other questions from council? Going once, going twice. Okay, let's jump into reports and new business. Let's start with, page 4 in our package there, transfer outstanding utility property taxes. Roland, standard business, I'll let you take the floor there.
All right, so good evening, your worship and members of council. The purpose of this report tonight is to bring the council for approval to proceed with the outstanding utility transfers to property taxes on January 29th, 2021. I won't go through all the background there, but it just references the MGA, outlays the section of the MGA Act that allows us to transfer outstanding utilities to the registered tax owner. We have a bylaw in place that also outlines the steps that we need to take. For the discussion topic, so due to COVID-19 impact and the deferral program implemented, which ended July 24th, 2020, administration has not processed any utility transfers to the property tax roll since April of this year. And the amount transferred at that time was around $12,000. Since July 24, 2020, penalties started to be applied to the accounts at 2.5%. Administration hasn't transferred any utility tax for arrears, but we've been continually sending out monthly friendly arrears letters advising those who haven't paid their bills what their balance is and what it was growing at. So the current utilities that are 90 days past due is around $66,000. Arrears letters have been sent to all residents via email or mail about the past due amount that was mailed after December 3rd, 2020 utility billing for the month of November. The town of Slave Lake has ceased water shutoffs for delinquent accounts due to the winter season and the COVID-19 restrictions. This means the only current method of collecting taxes would be to transfer them to the tax roll, or utilities to the tax roll. And so our recommendation is that we send another arrear letter out in January and let people have a chance to pay that balance, and should they not, that we would proceed with transferring all applicable utility accounts that are in arrears to their property taxes on January 30th.
Hey, questions from council. Councillor McGregor.
Question. So is this amount more or less than kind of pre-COVID years, Roland, or where are we sort of sitting at with that?
So this amount, just based on when we started this a couple years ago, is actually less than when we have done in the past over the 3-month period. So slightly less. It was actually surprising to see utilities overall with the deferral program and everything going on. You know, I was expecting a little bit greater impact with the receivables, but it looks like most people are paying when they can pay. So this isn't an unreasonable amount, and you know, isn't expected. I guess it's on a positive note. It's still a bad amount for those who are having troubles dealing with that, but it's definitely better than what we expected.
Thank you for that, Roland. That's what I was hoping you were going to say, because I was nervous about the deferral program from the beginning. So that kind of lightens that, and I appreciate that. Thanks.
I think the fact of us too, that moving it to a landlord-based co-applicant system, there's a lot of emphasis on the landlord to deal with it when the tenant isn't. So, you know, not to say they're all from landlord tenant, but I think that's helped huge there to have, because we used to have this balloon that kind of fell through the cracks, and can't have that anymore. So it probably helps huge in that respect as well. Other questions, comments? If not, Councillor McGregor.
I'll make a motion that council directs administration to transfer utility arrears over 90 days to property taxes on January 30th, 2021.
Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, next report, Roland, in regards to tax recovery.
All right, so the purpose of this report is to bring to council for approval the terms and conditions, the sale date, and the reserve bids for all properties going to the tax recovery auction for land and designated manufactured homes. So this is an annual process that we do every year. We gather up all of the people who have met the time requirements and have yet failed to pay. During this process, we reach out to all of the affected property owners as best as possible. We offer them terms and conditions to come into the town and sign up for a contract to kind of help them out. And these would be the properties that we haven't heard back or haven't been able to meet those contracted obligations. And now we are moving to the next step to put the properties up for public auction. So as part of this process, we've provided you with a list for these, and we will post these lists in the Alberta Gazette for the January 2021 issue, as well as use any applicable advertising media that meets local public advertising bylaws for the town of Slave Lake, and we'll also post the list in the town office. And with that, is there any questions?
Questions from council? Councilor McGregor.
Oh, this is gonna be a long meeting if I'm gonna be the only one talking. Question for you, where are the prices set? So under that where it says like total assessed value, is that the price that we have to get? I'm kind of lost in that one. Like,
that's so historically because we haven't done an independent market value assessment on there, those will be the starting bid prices for the auction, just based on the assessed value. When we go through that process, sometimes there's ability to go through the process, and if something doesn't happen, then and we need to take further steps, then we would go and hire a market evaluator, a home evaluator, and further refine that number.
thank you.
Sorry, Councilor Boss.
Make a motion that council for the town of Slave Lake accept the list of properties for the tax sale as information.
So to be clear, Roland, is this 3 parts to a motion or 3 different motions?
We just set it up as 3 different motions.
Okay, Councilor Busk has a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Councilor Brandel.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. The council set the date of the tax recovery sale date to be February 26, 2021.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Lastly, Councilor Gramlich.
That council set the terms and conditions of the sale for the tax recovery sale as per attachments 1 and 2.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay. Moving right along. On page 12 in our package, we're into interim operating budget. So council's still working through budget, and we intend to finish that in the new year. But in the meantime, you guys need authority to spend money. So usually use a percentage of what we did for our previous budget, correct, Roland?
Yeah, so this also assumes some of the upcoming changes in there as well, but because it's limited to 2 months, there's nothing, there wouldn't be anything in there that wasn't unexpected. We haven't, budgeted for anything that we haven't spent in the past. This would be business as usual for the months of January and February.
Okay. And to be clear, this is business as usual. This isn't capital. This is just keeping us floating in the right direction. Okay, Councilor Brandel.
I move that council approves the 2021 interim operating budget as presented.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, thanks, Roland.
Thank you.
We'll jump into committee updates. So Watershed Council, we had a pretty thorough one there, but Councilor King, do you got some stuff you want to add? She says no. Any questions, comments from council? None. Chamber of Commerce, I don't believe they met in November, so there's no update there. Housing, Councilor Brandel.
Yeah, we just passed our budget with a 0% increase to the requisitions, so no increase to taxes, which was good news again. We're doing some advertising for the lodge vacancies because we had quite a few, more than we've seen in a while, and we put those on hold now with the last restrictions that were just put in place, and then more today. The lodge is going to be pretty much locked down and not open to visitors, so we won't go in and take pictures of that right now. And then the affordable side too, we were seeing some vacant in the market affordable stuff, so we're trying to figure out how to fill those ones as well. And yeah, that was about it.
Any questions? Councillor Busk.
So Julie, you were going to go in there and kind of set something up so you could do a virtual tour for prospective new clients?
I was going to, yeah. We were going to do a virtual tour of the building and some of the grounds, so what we could see. And yeah, with the restrictions, they're not letting anybody in right now, so.
Okay, any other questions? Tri-Council Health, Councillor McGregor.
So we didn't have a Tri-Council Health meeting. We don't have one till January. So I just made a couple calls and got some information that I normally share when we have a meeting. So exciting news, in November, there was 11 babies born at the Slave Lake Hospital. So we're still delivering babies. So that's fantastic for our region and for our community. We have 9 doctors and 5 nurse practitioners. Currently, wait time is 9 days for a doctor and 8 days for a nurse practitioner. We're also still doing walk-ins. We have 3 LPNs that are trained to work in the OR. So that's also fantastic news for hospital, especially in our region. And we've had a decrease in emergency room people and patients going in there by about 200 compared to, sort of the same months in the last few years when we went back and looked. So that's also good news. We're using our services instead of just being into the emergency room. So that was all I had for this one.
Questions? Councillor Brundle.
I know the restrictions were just announced today, Joyce, so you may not know the answer to this, but I'm just wondering if they're still going to be open to walk-ins now that all businesses are, is it just going to be appointment only? And
you know what, I have no idea. So this was yesterday and those come out at 4 o'clock. So I don't know, but I'm sure if any of that changes, our local AHS will have an update right away on that when they have all the right answers.
Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Brandel, anything in tourism world?
Only that our AGM was supposed to be December 11th, but we postponed it until January, hoping that we don't have to do it virtually, but we will, I guess, if we have to. Right now, it's postponed to January 14th.
Okay. Library, Councillor McGregor.
So our library meeting was on December 2nd, and if you watch the announcements today, so libraries have some different COVID rules again with them. So I just got an email from our library manager. So as soon as we know anything more, we'll put some more stuff out. And again, the library's been really, really good on keeping up with everything social media wise. They've done a good job. They've stayed under the 25% capacity from the time they opened back up in the summer. So they've done a really, really good job at the library. And so, I'm sad. I know that libraries will be closed, but we're going to see about curbside service and still continuing with the virtual stuff that's being done. So just watch for an update here in the next couple days. On that, we elected our chair and our vice chair. So I am still the chair for the library committee, and Charlotte, the MD representative at large, is the vice chair, and Herfried will stay on as our secretary. So that's really good. And we still have Jean as our treasurer. So that was nice. We've kept a consistent board. And yeah, that's kind of all I have for right now to let you know. But as I say, just watch, because there'll be some updates coming here in the next couple days from the library.
Okay, questions? Okay, Councillor Grumlick, naming.
Have not met.
Councillor King, Community Futures.
So we always have all kinds of projects on the go. I think the biggest news today will be with the closing of many businesses. There's a second round of funding coming out for the SEBA loans that will be available through Community Futures for self-proprietor businesses, sole ownership. If you don't qualify for the SEBA loan through your bank or financial institution, Community Futures is an option for you to apply through. It is available on Community Futures Slave Lake website. If you didn't apply for the first round of funding, you can still apply for the second round of funding. If you applied for the first round of funding and were successful, you can still apply for the second round of funding.
Okay, I feel like you need a chart for that, but that sounds good. It was nice of the provincial government to announce some increased supports coming there. So hopefully those businesses take access of that. Other questions, comments? I see none. Let's jump into CEC Community Education Committee. Councillor McGregor, anything?
Yeah, we had a really productive meeting on November 26th. Actually, probably the last 4 or 5 meetings I've been to here at the end of November have been really productive and really good. So we have a new person in our trade center. His name is Ken. So he gave us a really good overview on dual credit. Let me get the right. It's got on the second page. So we got dual credit and pre-employment and then apprenticeship training. So there's a difference between all 3 of them, and he's given us a really good update. I was going to get this to Chris at communications from our meeting because it's a lot to read, but he's done a really good job. So I'll forward it off to Chris and he can somehow format it and put it on social media for us, just for the public. They're doing a lot of work like virtually, and they're still trying to do stuff like through the academic upgrading, keeping their people in check, checking on them, sending emails, doing visits through FaceTime and that, just to keep up. Adult learners and that are struggling, and lots of these people also have families at home and little kids. They're not able to get into the college all the time, so things have been tough. So Wanda McGrath and Trina have been doing a really good job on checking in on that. They were also interested in doing some partnership and budgeting with Community Futures and the college on some Adulting 101 and some budgeting courses. So that's a great opportunity for us. And there's also been some mental health first aid offered online from FirstWorks for the students. The college had some mental health grant money, and so they put it towards that so that some of their adult students, and it's opened up a little bit to the community as well, can have some seats in there. So Kyle Paulson is the guy to get in contact for that. So that's been really nice. And we've planned our meetings for the rest of the year. And I think we'll be missing maybe 1 board member, but we'll talk about that when it comes to January. And then I'll be on the look to see and get a couple board members. We've had 1 retire and 1 take on a new job.
Okay, any questions? I see none. MPC.
So we had our meeting yesterday. We granted permanent approval. We had a 6-month review on a couple home-based businesses, and we granted permanent approval. We had an application for a detached garage with variances. However, they were outside the scope of the authority of the MPC, so they were refused. And we also had an application for a restaurant in the East Side Tags building for a donaire shop, which we approved as well.
Sorry, Councillor Brandel. I was still processing another restaurant coming to town.
I just want to add that we are looking for a board member for that committee as well.
This is true.
So sorry, you're looking for one right now? Somebody asked me about that today, and I said I saw one for SDAB, but I didn't see one for MPC. But you're still actively looking for one.
We were. It was confirmed yesterday. We need somebody for the MPC.
Okay. Okay. Any questions on that? I see none. SDAB. Obviously, there's a hearing coming up in regards to that variance, but nothing at the moment. Waste.
We have not met.
Airport.
We have a meeting coming up in about a week, I believe.
Okay, Legacy has not met. We got a meeting coming up as well. But obviously with things going on, it's just a big building sitting empty except for daycare that's going on. And sorry, WGS is still upstairs. The announcements today, daycare continues. So we're just obviously seeing some significant revenue loss from no bookings for that right now, but that's not any new information. Protective services.
Have not met.
Northern Alberta Mayors and Reeves Caucus is pushed off until next year. Northern Alberta elected leaders met on Friday by Zoom, but I could not attend, so I don't get any updates for that. So motion to accept the committee verbal reports as information. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Let's jump into management task list. Any questions or concerns on page 23 in our package? Going once, going twice. Motion to accept management task list as information. Thank you, Councillor Busk. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, what else we got? Mayor's Corner. Life's been interesting for sure. Echoing Councillor McGregor's comments about the economic development session on Friday. I thought it was great. Great engagement. I think Insight's a great company to be working with. Leah's fantastic, and we're going to be anxious to see where all that stuff can go. I had to jump out for part of it because I had a meeting with the MLA and Parks and Environment Ministry and the ADM and Reef Carrick about the Bird Observatory. And so I told them I wouldn't share any news, but there's some good news coming, and we'll see where that ends up. But yeah, it was a great meeting. And so one was about Bird Observatory, but we did get into some bigger discussion about the park and that sort of stuff in general. And so the ministry committed to meeting with our councils in February to have a bigger, broader discussion about that. And so push back on them and, basically, we're pursuing this economic development and growth initiative. But one avenue obviously is tourism, and they have the biggest chunk of land in regards to some of that. So we kind of need to be on the same page about what we're doing. And so looking forward to that meeting, and I'll wait for the MLA's office there to make some announcements about what's going on in the world of Bird Observatory. We had some excitement over the weekend in regards to park issues. And so RCMP was requested to go to one of our outdoor rinks and had what they thought was too many people and masks and so on and so forth. I did comment on it, but I guess the messaging going out is I can tell you that we're not looking for stuff by any means, and I don't think the RCMP is either. But in the past, all of this stuff that's been under a public health advisory, it's really been up to the public health officials to handle. Recently, the province enacted some additional powers that now lay with RCMP and with bylaw officers to do that. We are not actively searching for issues. I think the focus from all of those agencies on education first. But when complaints come in, they have to be dealt with. So appreciate our bylaw and RCMP stepping up to the plate. It's not a fun job by any means. And I recognize too that stuff is constantly changing. What we thought we knew yesterday changed to 4 o'clock again today, and who knows what it's going to be like a month from now. So I had a conversation with the health inspector last week about some stuff going on in regards to we're seeing these increases in COVID, and what does it mean? Geez, if I have a test, how many days is it? How many hours do I got to do this? What if I come in close contact? What does close contact mean? And she mentioned, I'm looking at this site probably 80 times a day, just trying to keep up with it. So everybody's struggling with that. We'll figure it out together. We're not out to hammer people, but we are out to enforce some stuff that exists because it's for the safety of all Albertans. Switching gears, we've got a meeting with Big Stone Cree Nation on Thursday in our effort to work more aggressively with our neighbors, and excited to see what opportunities lie ahead with them. But the biggest news obviously is the stuff that came out at 4 o'clock today. And so, all you have to do is watch my social media posts for the last week or two, and you can see that the frustration levels are high on both sides. One thing I learned from the fire in 2011 is that when pressure is at its highest, the best and worst come out of people. And right now, I think we feel squished more than we ever have. So I will say to the public that's listening, the masses, thousands that are watching the Zoom meeting, because apparently everybody does that now and picks out everything that we say. I will say that I get it, man. Like, life is tough, and this is not fun for anyone. The next 4 weeks, especially at Christmas, as a guy who loves to socialize and fill my house with people, with my closest friends, like it's killing us. Having the conversation with my wife tonight about what do we do about her parents that live here, that we can't interact with them at Christmas, like, it blows my mind. That being said, we see our numbers in Slave Lake have never been so high, and across Alberta we're losing this battle. And so these restrictions are going to take a toll mentally on everyone. And so I do say to my council, I do say to my residents, I do say to my own family, like, we got to keep talking, we got to keep connecting, we got to keep reaching out. This is a tough time of year when things are normal. And just make sure that, if you're feeling like you need some help, that you get it, because there is lots of supports that exist out there for that. And sometimes all you need is a phone call to get you through it. But I understand it's going to be frustrating. Lots of facilities going closed is going to have an economic impact. Businesses, are going to have to close, and this affects people's livelihoods. But I will say, I don't feel it's as daunting as the last time, in the sense that I truly feel like it is temporary. B, I don't feel like I'm looking into an abyss this time of unknown nothingness. Like, there's vaccines, there's things on the horizon, that there is hope. And sometimes hope is all you need to get through. So in closing this, we're all in it together, and hang in there, everybody. Don't hang, but hang in there. So that's all I had. And with that, I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Councillor Randall. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Zoom sucks, but I got to tell you, tonight when I was putting in my pajama pants to do this meeting, I thought there's worse things in the world, right?